Perimenopause fatigue is no joke. It affects about 56% of women going through perimenopause, and it is so bad it affects our relationships, our happiness, our day to day life, even our jobs. And it's so bad that some women have to just take off work just to deal with their fatigue. Hey, beautiful people. My name is Vanessa Dyer. I'm a holistic dietitian helping women in perimenopause navigate changes in their bodies so they can feel better, be happy, and enjoy life. In this video, I'll be talking about the biggest culprit behind fatigue during perimenopause and what you can start doing today to get your energy back. And if you haven't checked out the first video about fatigue, talking about boosting melatonin to make sure you're getting enough sleep, make sure you check that out. And at the end of this video, I'll be talking about my perimenopause wellness community. Perimenopause fatigue is not just feeling tired. You might feel drugged, weak, dizzy, you might feel a little heavy. It almost kind of feels like burnout. And it doesn't matter how much coffee you drink or how many naps you're taking, you constantly feel tired and burnt out and have this intense feeling of fatigue. The biggest reason behind fatigue during perimenopause is unbalanced cortisol. So usually estrogen and progesterone keep cortisol in check, so it's almost like it has a leash on cortisol. When estrogen and progesterone fluctuate during perimenopause, cortisol breaks free from that leash and it goes rogue and haywire. It causes a lot of problems. It amplifies all perimenopause symptoms. But just for today in this video, I'm just going to be talking about the fatigue part. So for everybody, men and women, cortisol usually spikes between 2 to 4 a.m. But if our cortisol is already high, instead of just spiking at that time, it's almost like an explosion. So we wake up, and not only do we wake up, but we can't go back to sleep. So we're not getting a full night's rest. It causes fatigue. We're tired throughout the day. It also causes cognitive dysfunction. And what sucks is when we're not getting enough sleep, our cortisol spikes from the lack of sleep. So it's a vicious circle. So another thing is high cortisol levels equals high blood sugar, which can cause fatigue from insulin resistance. If you're not familiar with insulin, it's a type of hormone that's involved with blood sugar regulation. So think of insulin as a key that opens the door to your cells so they can get sugar from your blood, which is also known as energy. And that's what keeps us going throughout the day. High blood sugar turns into fat. So this fat essentially acts as a wall to that cell door, preventing insulin from doing its job. So your cells aren't getting the sugar, the energy they need, leading to those brutal daytime crashes and poor energy. High blood sugar levels alone is another topic. So I'm going to make a video on that. So make sure you subscribe if you're not already. Regulating cortisol is an ongoing effort that requires both nutrition and lifestyle strategies and habits, not one or the other. That's not how it works. And I always tell people, if you're not managing your stress and managing your cortisol, it really doesn't matter what else you're doing. It really doesn't matter how well you're eating if you're not managing your cortisol. Honestly, there's a lot that goes into cortisol and managing cortisol, which I do explain more in the Boost Energy and Beat Fatigue guide that I have linked in the comments and the description. So make sure you grab that. Here are just a few tips that you can start doing today or this week to help break that vicious cycle of chronic lack of sleep and chronic lack of energy and chronically high cortisol levels. So first, exercise is important. And a lot of us believe that we have to just do mostly high impact cardio, hit, running. But honestly, this actually spikes our cortisol levels. Not saying to never do those, because I do hit twice a week, but until things are a little bit more balanced with our cortisol and our stress, let's slow things down and maybe incorporate Pilates, yoga, and low impact cardio. Second, cortisol is a stress hormone and we need to manage our stress. Like, it is non-negotiable. And there are things that we can't control. I understand, but we just need to know how to lower our stress levels and manage it. So you do what works for you, whether that's meditating, breathing techniques like four square breathing, nervous system regulation, getting away from toxic people, whatever it takes, managing stress is vital. I personally like to read every day, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. This helps ground myself and manage my stress. And I also personally, I do write romance, and that really helps with stress relief. And the next thing, a lot of people are not going to like this, but caffeine. Caffeine, unfortunately, raises cortisol levels. So a lot of women switch to mushroom coffee, which brands differ, but some brands like Rise, it's a combination of coffee, a little bit of coffee, and adaptogenic mushrooms like lion's mane and reishi. Adaptogens are plants that help regulate stress. Another thing is green tea. So, green tea has L-theanine and polyphenols that also help regulate cortisol levels. Vitamin C is also really important, specifically for our adrenal health. So, our adrenal glands is what creates and secretes cortisol in our body. So, when we have healthy adrenal glands, they're working properly, they're regulating cortisol properly, and secreting the appropriate amount of cortisol. So a lot of people think that vitamin C is just in oranges. It's in most fruits and a lot of raw vegetables. So like raw bell peppers actually have more vitamin C than oranges, but berries, citrus, melons, and like I said, raw vegetables like spinach. If you are able to eat raw broccoli, raw cauliflower, those are rich in vitamin C. It is a heat sensitive vitamin. So just letting you know that when you do cook, like the bell peppers, most of that vitamin C is getting destroyed. But as long as you're incorporating a variety of cooked and raw vegetables and also adding fruits to your diet, you should be getting enough vitamin C. Another nutrient is omega-3 fatty acids from like walnuts, chia seeds, ground flax seeds, and fatty fish like tuna and salmon help regulate cortisol by lowering inflammation associated with cortisol. So most weeknights I eat yogurt, and I usually have that with blueberries, which are rich in vitamin C. And also I'll add either walnuts or ground flaxseed for that omega-3. There's ashwagandha in my multivitamin. And also I incorporate a lot of self-care. Every day is self-care. And I personally drink green tea every morning, Monday through Friday. I have that with my breakfast. And there's other things that I'll do, which I'll make another separate video on about how I personally regulate my stress. But don't forget to grab your Boost Energy and Beat Fatigue toolkit located in the comments and the description. I go into a lot more detail about other things like magnesium, dark chocolate, vitamin E, zinc, and also how alcohol affects our cortisol levels. But like I said before, there's a lot that goes into cortisol. And honestly, it could be very overwhelming, especially when you feel like you need to remove some of your favorite things that you enjoy, and especially when you feel like you're doing it alone. But that's not what it's about. It's more so adding in those beneficial things that help you and being around other people that are going through the same thing you are. That's why I created the Peri Collective. It's my perimenopause wellness community that uses nutrition and lifestyle strategies to help you navigate perimenopause successfully so you can be confident and have clarity going through this rocky journey. So we have monthly challenges to help build small habits for long-term success, weekly support, and monthly video calls as well. So I have the information below in the description, as well as your Boost Energy and Beat Fatigue guide.